Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kimberly Cobb. I am the transition. Okay, so today's workshop, I will explain, provide you with some information regarding the WIOA program, which is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So what is WorkSource Georgia? WorkSource Georgia is a federally funded program that utilizes Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act grant funded to empower individuals to pursue the career and education that they need for success. And this program is at no cost to participants. What does WorkSource Georgia do? It provides an experience that is entirely tailored towards you. It helps you jump straight into your career, grow your work readiness skills, and obtain work experience or fund training and education. The program is designed to help dislocated workers, adults, and youth who are in need of training to enter or re-enter the labor market. The program assists students with tuition, books, uniforms, and transportation. Okay, and who does WIOA serve? It serves people in regions 12 and 13. Region 12 consists of Burke, Jefferson, Jenkins, and Richmond counties. And this includes adults, dislocated workers, and the youth. Region 13 consists of Columbia County, Glasscock, Hancock, McDuffie, Lincoln, Taliaferro, Warren, Washington, and Wilkes. And it also includes adults, dislocated workers, and youth. So they both include the same population. It's just in different regions. So wherever you live, they can assist you. Okay, and services that they have to offer is career planning, job search assistance, occupational skills, training, paid and unpaid internships, resume building, work readiness. They can also assist with tuition and fees, textbooks, uniforms, and tools. You must reside in Burke County, Jefferson, Jenkins, or Richmond counties, or Region 13. You must complete an in-person orientation. You must meet income guidelines, meet eligibility and substantiability requirements. You must meet other requirements including but not limited to being actively enrolled as a student, having been accepted into an approved program of study, being laid off, unemployed, or underemployed. And males, you must have registered with the Selective Services. They do have in-demand careers that they definitely will assist with, which is business, manufacturing, healthcare, construction, education and training, hospitality, information technology, distribution and logistics, government, and public administration. And the program also helps out-of-school youth. And of course, you must be a resident of Region 12 or Region 13. You must be between the ages of 16 to 24, have one or more qualifying needs for service, be a foster child, homeless, or runaway, dropped out of high school or not completed high school, be pregnant or a parenting youth, been involved in the justice system, have a documented disability, or be in need of additional assistance, income contingent. And males must be 18, males who are 18 or older must be registered with the Selective Services and meet all eligibility requirements. Okay, and now we will discuss the supportive services. So WIOA offers supportive services, and the supportive services provides transportation assistance for $15 per day for attendance. If this is something you're interested in, you would have to have a signed timesheet by your instructor, and you would submit that to the WIOA office, and they would place the funds on a card, MasterCard or Visa card. They would place the funds on there and give the card to you. They also assist with childcare, $12 per day for childcare. With childcare, you would need to have whoever's keeping your child sign a timesheet, sign-in sheet. You would give that to the WIOA staff. They would place the funds again on a card, and it would be your responsibility to pay whoever is watching your child. They also assist with GED. And the GED, they will not pay for the classes, but they will pay for the testing. So if you are unable to qualify for a scholarship for whatever reason, WIOA could assist with the testing. And also, if you receive your GED and decide to move forward with certification, associate's degree, or degree program, WIOA will help with tuition. They come in third party after the Pell and Hope grant. So for whatever reason, if you are unable to qualify for the Pell or Hope, the WIOA will pay for the entire tuition. But the program must be an approved WIOA program. And of course, their programs are listed on their website that they would pay for. Okay, so what's next? So once you've gone through all of the other steps, you could register and apply. You must complete an in-person orientation and go to your My Next Move tab. And from there, a career development specialist would determine whether or not you are eligible for the program. If you are not sure what your career goal is, they do have a website that you could go to, and of course it's under the My Next Move. You would go there. They have a QR code that you could scan. You would scan that and it would take you to a short assessment. You can complete this assessment anytime. And you don't have to complete all the steps if you just want to see what your career matches may be. The career matches are based on your personality and interests. So once you've done step one, then you can move to step two, use the results to narrow down what career fields you are interested in, and then you just contact the WIOA department, and they can offer assistance with resume building and help you get work experience in that career field. However, like I said, you can just simply complete step one just to see what your career match may be so you would know. And now we will complete a quick exercise. Is everyone able to see my screen large enough? If not, okay. So what we will do, we'll spend about 5 minutes on this, and I can read them over. What you can do is just drop your answers. Thank you. Okay, so you can drop your answers in the chat. So, or you can come off of mute and speak however you want to, whichever you're more comfortable doing, but using the chat is perfectly fine. So the first question is, Susan cannot afford college and was not able to receive the Pell or Hope scholarship. So tell me how the WIOA program could help Susan. And you can just drop your answers in the chat. Yes, it can definitely help her pay for it and help with tuition. Correct. Mm-hmm. Great. So, okay, great. So everyone was paying attention. Good job. So Ben is a single parent and attends classes offered through Augusta Tech twice a week. Ben must pay for childcare and transportation, so he is able to attend classes. What should Ben do to receive assistance from the WIOA program? Great, Reginald. Okay, yes. Yes. So, right. Apply for childcare. Yes. Hmm. Yes, transportation and childcare. Definitely. Mhm. Yes, and the WIOA would definitely assist being with childcare. You would just have to turn in a sign-in sheet from whoever keeps his child. Okay. Um, so do you feel the WIOA program could help you now or in the future? Great. Wonderful. And have any of you taken the GED and passed any parts of it, if that is your overall goal? Great. Great. Okay. Now, taking two parts? Okay, not yet. Okay. So great. Okay, great, great, great. Okay, so once you all have completed the adult education program, what's next for you? Like, what do you want to do next? Is college a goal? Working? Welding? Okay, that's a good field. Okay, I want to get a career. Okay, okay, Amanda. And what do you want to get a career in, Commander? Amanda? College. Okay, great. Get a better job. Hmm. Radiology. Okay, that's good. Nursing. I love it. IT. That's great. Okay, perfect. So let me move back over here to my slide. Occupational specialist. Okay. Okay, so you guys have great answers. Bright futures ahead for all of you. Um, so I also wanted to, we've already talked, I wanted to show a short video of WIOA graduates that they've assisted with. And a lot of them went to Augusta Tech. So let me see if I can share that screen. I do have that open. So let me see if I'm able to share that. Let's see. Share. Okay. Okay. Is everyone able to see this screen? Okay, great. All right. Okay, so I mainly wanted to show that video to you so you can see that the WIOA does help a lot of college students, and a lot of them have graduated from the program. I am going to, let's see, stop sharing and just share my contact information with you. Okay, that's my contact information. You all can write it down or you can ask your teacher later. But I also wanted to provide you guys with some information about a program that we have, and it's called the IET, Integrated Education and Training Program. It's a 3-week free program where you will earn hands-on training and credentials while still earning your diploma. You'll, you'll earn 2 credentials, the OSHA 10 and forklift operating. You will also be provided with contact information for potential employers. You will receive a $25 Chick-fil-A gift card once training has been completed, and you may earn vouchers to take the GED exam. If you are interested in this program, you have to apply by noon tomorrow. And you also need to make sure that you have at least 12 contact hours before tomorrow. And you must be 18 years old and have a valid driver's license. So again, that's the forklift operating program. It's a great program. If you're interested, let your teacher know. He will give you information on how to apply. So this concludes my workshop. And I do thank Bostock for your time. Thank you, everyone, for your time and participating.
Thank you, Ms. Cobb. We really appreciate it. Really good information.
Yes. And I'm going to just kind of write down the names here of others who have joined. And also, Mr. Bostock, I will not be in your class tomorrow because I've already done your 8:30 class.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so you have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye.
All right. We need to check our homework. You should have gotten that turned in already. So let me get that pulled up. All right, let me scroll down some. Look at the bottom part. Make sure that you are not clicking on the tab that says submission. You want to click on the tab that says upload. No, ma'am. Okay, so be looking at those, see if there are any of those that you want me to work. All right, any questions? Anybody get every single one of them right? No. Okay, how about you only missed between 1 and 5 problems? Okay.
Hey, Mr. Bostock,
Yes, sir.
is it a number that I'm supposed to call I supposed to do it online, the set for the GED test for the reading and social study.
Ask me that again.
Is it a number or I supposed to do it online, like the set for the GED social studies? Cause I came yesterday. I seen you. Uh I had just got done taking my readiness test.
Okay, I'm still not sure what you're trying to ask me.
Like how I supposed to schedule the actual GED test for reading and
Oh,
social.
oh, oh. Okay, yeah. All right, I'll talk to you about that
Okay.
a little bit later on today.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm. All right, so missing 2, missing 4. Okay, that's not too bad out of that many. That's a lot of problems, and if you only miss 2 or 3 or 4 out of that, then that's pretty good. Pretty good. All right, then we had reading. So let me get that. Okay, on author's tone. So okay, let's switch and let me zoom in. So take a look at those answers, and the explanations are there as well. Okay, any questions about any of those? One and 5. All right. I don't have the passage in front of me. Let me see if I can pull the passage up. Um, okay, so number 1 says, who are referred to as razor-tongued fanatics and uncentered savants. And they're saying that the answer was C, the internet writers. And it says the writer mentions internet SAS. I think he uses that term, internet SAS. I'm not scared of you. I don't know if he used that exact phrase or not. I'm not seeing it. But they're also saying, he goes on to say, you got to love it because it keeps riders off the street and out of trouble. I have not read this. I probably ought to start doing that. On number 5, it says, from whose point of view is this piece likely written? And they're telling you the answer was C, someone knowledgeable about the media. The reviewer talks knowledgeably about both television and internet. So it has to be somebody that knows something about television, something about internet, being on the internet and so forth. So you might would have maybe gone with A. That's a very close answer. I think you can pretty much discount D. I'm not sure I could go with B. To me, it's a toss-up between A and C. So yes, I could see where you would pick A. The thing you got to remember is they are really, really bad about giving you two choices that you sit there and go, is it this one? Is it that one? Could it be this? Could it be that? They do that quite a bit on the reading. And so sometimes if you feel like you're kind of stuck between two, kind of go back and reread a little bit. And yes, sometimes you as the test taker, you're overthinking it. Okay, you're trying to put too much into it. I will tell you that I think us doing these reading exercises where you are actually getting GED type questions has really paid off, because y'all's reading scores are just really great. I'm telling you, they are some really good, overall, for the most part, really good scores. Your reading scores are just, I'm just speechless. Speechless. Y'all are doing such a great job. I am really, really proud of all of you, because you are really, really stepping up. Ms. Cruz, is this for your GED ready test? You're reading GED ready? From the most recent post test, or your GED ready test? Okay, I can go look at your most recent post test. I cannot look at your GED ready scores. You and the administrator here, adult ed office administrator, can go in and see it, but we can't. I can't see yours. You've got to actually send me your GED ready scores, because I don't get a chance to see them. But once again, y'all are doing very well. Very well. I mean, we've got some of you that jumped like 60 points from either your pre-test to your post-test, or from the most recent post-test to a previous post-test. I'm talking 30, 50, 60 point jump in your reading, and I'm just in awe. That is just so fantastic. And that is a testament to your hard work. Okay, I'll go in and look while y'all are doing classwork today. Yes, that's another thing I noticed too. A lot of you, every time you take a test, your score gets better, and that is phenomenal too. And we've got, maybe it may be 4 of you, 5 of you that you may be gone in a week or 2 ish. You'll be finished. You'll be graduated, because some of y'all are that close. That close, especially some of you that just went and did your GED ready tests. Your scores are indicating it's time for you to go. It's time for you to go on and take your actual GED. So I'll be talking to some of you about that today as well. Okay, any other questions? I know I probably didn't do a super job of explaining the reading. Y'all got to remember, I'm a math person, so sometimes it's a little difficult for me to explain some of the reading. All right, today we are going to move to the sort of the other side. Tuesday we did adding and subtracting integers. Today we're going to be doing multiplying and dividing integers. And really, multiplying and dividing integers is much easier than adding and subtracting. It's a whole different approach. You still need to know your multiplication from 1 times 1 to 10 times 10, because you're going to have numbers that you got to multiply, and I'm going to want you to do them quick. So you've got to know those multiplication tables. But with multiplying and dividing, they're 2 rules. Are the 2 numbers, do the 2 numbers have the same sign, both positive or both negative? Do the 2 numbers have different signs, one positive? With adding and subtracting, there is no rule like that about like signs and different signs and whatever. You have to sort of take that other approach. Okay, so let me looks like my internet's sort of acting up too. Okay, there we go. All right, again, give me a second. All right, my computer is being weird. Okay, I think I'm back. Can y'all hear me? Okay. All right. Sometimes you get kind of lost out there in cyberspace somewhere. Sort of like being in the twilight. Okay. All right. I think I'm still in the twilight zone.
Hi, welcome to Math Antics. In our last video, we learned how to add and subtract integers. In this video, we're going to learn how to multiply and divide integers. The good news is that multiplying and dividing integers is easier than adding and subtracting them, because even though it involves both positive and negative numbers, the multiplication and division still works basically the same way. As we learned in our video about negative numbers, the negative numbers are like a mirror image of the positive numbers on the number line. Each number on the positive side has a negative counterpart on the negative side. There's a 2 on the positive side, and there's a negative 2 on the negative side. There's a 5 on the positive side, and there's a negative 5 on the negative side, and so on. Realizing that can help us understand that negative numbers are just like positive numbers, but they have a negative factor built into them. For example, think about the number 3 for a minute. Do you remember when we learned about factors? We learned that 1 is always a factor of any number. And that's because multiplying by 1 doesn't change a number. 3 and 1 times 3 are the same value. So if you have the number 3, you can factor out a 1 and you have 1 times 3. On the other hand, what if you have negative 3 instead? We could still factor out a 1 from it and nothing would change. You'd have 1 times negative 3. But because the number's negative, we could also factor out a negative 1. Doing that would give us negative 1 times 3. So one way to think about negative numbers is to imagine that they're just like positive numbers, but they always have a factor of negative 1 built into them. That means if you want to change a positive number into a negative number, all you have to do is multiply it by a factor of negative 1. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. 10 times negative 1 is negative 10, and so on. And one way to visualize this is to see that multiplying by a factor of negative 1 just switches a number from the positive side of the number line to the negative side. But that raises an interesting question. What happens if you multiply a number that's already on the negative side by a factor of negative 1? Like negative 1 times negative 3. Is that going to make it extra negative? Nope. In fact, it's going to do just the opposite. Multiplying a negative number by another negative factor is actually going to switch the answer back to the positive side of the number line. Multiplying by negative 1 acts like a switch no matter which side of the number line you start on. If you start with a positive, then multiplying by negative 1 switches it to negative. But if you start with a negative, multiplying by negative 1 switches it back to positive. And you can keep switching back and forth between the positive and negative side of the number line by multiplying by another negative 1 as many times as you want.
Positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative.
So multiplying by 1 negative gives us a negative. Multiplying by 2 negatives gives us a positive. Multiplying by 3 negatives gives us a negative. Multiplying by 4 negatives gives us a positive. Multiplying by 5 negatives gives us a negative. Multiplying by 6 negatives gives us a positive, and so on. Do you see the pattern? In a multiplication problem, if you have an even number of negative factors, they'll form pairs that will balance each other out and will give you a positive answer. That's because the pair negative 1 times negative 1 just equals 1, which has no effect on the answer. But if you have an odd number of negative factors that are being multiplied together, after you balance out all the pairs, there will always be one negative factor left over that will give you a negative answer. In a minute, we'll see some examples of how knowing this will help us when multiplying and dividing lots of integers. But first, let's look at the simple problem 3 times 5. We know that the answer is 15, but now, thanks to negative numbers, we know that there's 3 more variations of this problem that we need to learn how to do. This might seem a little complicated, but it's really not. That's because we're going to get the same number for the answer for all 4 problems. It's just that the sign of the answer, whether it's positive or negative, will be different depending on how many negative factors we're multiplying. Basically, when doing integer multiplication and division, you can just pretend that the negatives aren't there while you multiply or divide. And then you count up how many negative factors you have to figure out the sign of the answer. If there's an even number of negative factors, the answer will be positive. But if there's an odd number of negative factors, then the answer will be negative. So in the first problem, we don't have any negative factors. So our answer is just going to be positive 15, which we already knew. In the second problem, we have only one negative factor being multiplied, which means our answer will be negative 15. In the third problem, we also have just one negative factor, which means that our answer will also be negative 15. And in the fourth problem, we have two negative factors being multiplied. That's an even number of negative factors, so they'll balance each other out, they'll switch and switch back, and they'll give us an answer of positive 15. That's pretty easy, right? And the really great news is that because multiplication and division are so closely related, they're inverse operations, the rules about negative factors are exactly the same for division problems. For example, if you have the problem 8 divided by 2, shown here in fraction form, the answer is positive 4. But if you have 8 divided by negative 2, then there's one negative, so the answer is negative 4. Likewise, if you have negative 8 divided by 2, then there's still just one negative, so the answer will also be negative 4. But if both of the numbers you're dividing are negative, negative 8 divided by negative 2, then there's two negatives in the division problem, so the answer will be positive 4. And one way to see that a negative divided by a negative gives you a positive is to realize that if you factor out the negative 1 on the top and you factor out the negative 1 on the bottom, then you have a pair of common factors that you can cancel, just like you would if you were simplifying a fraction. Okay, are you ready for some more complicated examples? In these problems, we're going to be combining both multiplication and division. And the good news is that it doesn't matter whether a negative factor is being multiplied or divided. You still get to count it when figuring out if you have an even or an odd number of factors. How about this one? Negative 3 times 8 over negative 2. Well, on the top, negative 3 times 8 is going to give us negative 24. Since 3 times 8 is 24, and there's only one negative factor. And then negative 24 divided by negative 2 is going to be positive 12. Since 24 divided by 2 is 12, and we have two negatives, which means our answer will be positive. Here's another good example. Negative 1 times negative 8 times negative 6 over the quantity negative 3 times negative 4. All five of the numbers are negative, and since that's an odd number of negative factors, we know that the answer is going to be negative. Watch and see. On the top, negative 1 times negative 8 is positive 8. Positive 8 times negative 6 is negative 48. And on the bottom, we have negative 3 times negative 4, which is positive 12. And then as the final step, negative 48 divided by 12 is negative 4. So it worked. Our final answer is negative because we had an odd number of negative factors. But what if we made one slight change to that same problem? What if we made one of the numbers on top positive instead of negative? Then we'd only have 4 negative numbers, which is even. So the answer should be positive 4. Let's see if it is. On the top, negative 1 times positive 8 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 6 is positive 48. And on the bottom, we have negative 3 times negative 4, which is positive 12. And then as the final step, 48 divided by 12 is positive 4, just as I suspected. So do you see what I mean? All the multiplication and division works the same. It's just that you have to figure out whether the answer is going to be positive or negative. And to do that, all you have to do is figure out if you have an even or an odd number of negative factors in the multiplication or division. If there's an odd number of negative factors, then the answer will be negative. And if there's an even number of negative factors, the answer will be positive. And remember, this process only works for integer multiplication and division. If you have a problem that also contains integer addition and subtraction, you need to do those operations using the rules we learned in the last video. As always, the way to get good at math is to practice. So be sure to work some integer multiplication and division problems to make sure you've got it. Thanks for watching Math Antics, and I'll see you next time. Learn more at mathantics.com.
Are you self-employed or run a small business? Do you want an easy way to create professional invoices? Then
Hi, and welcome to today's lesson, Integer Rules for Multiplication and Division. So we're going to start out by looking at the rules, and then we're going to find an easier way to kind of use the rules, and you can use which strategy works for you. So our first rule that we ever learned, of course, is that when we have a positive and we multiply it by a positive, we get a positive. That actually is the same type of rule for a division. So positive divided by a positive is also positive here. Here, if we have a negative and we multiply it by a negative, we get a positive. For division, it looks very similar. It is negative divided by negative equals a positive. And then notice that both of these are going to result in a negative answer. And it's when one of the signs is different than the other. So it doesn't matter if it's positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, both of them will result in a negative answer. That is the same for division.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Now can you hear me? Okay. All right. So this screen right here, it didn't freeze. I stopped it because I wanted you to see that this is what you need to write this down. If you're multiplying, if the two numbers have the same sign, if they're both positive, your answer is positive. If both are negative, your answer is still positive. But if one sign is positive and the other is negative, you get a negative answer. And that's every time, every problem. It does not matter what the values of the number are. Okay, whereas in addition and subtraction, it was important whether that was a 5 or a 9 or a 2 or a 7. It's important. But when you're multiplying or dividing, you're just going to multiply the numbers together and you're going to follow this rule. Are the two signs the same? Then you get a positive answer. Are the two signs different? You get a negative answer.
So we've learned so far that the rules for multiplying and dividing integers are exactly the same. The only difference right here is the sign, of course. So I'm going to introduce you to the triangle method. And this is a really easy method to use because there's not a lot to remember. You just draw a triangle on your paper. You put two negatives and a positive in there. And what we're going to be doing is covering up the two symbols that we have in our problem, and the thing that is left uncovered, the symbol uncovered, will be what the answer is. And you can use this until you become more comfortable with the rules for multiplying and dividing integers. So our first problem is 4 times 3. Notice that I don't have two positives inside this triangle, and that's because I should know that anytime I multiply two positives, I'll get a positive. So I wouldn't use the triangle for this type of problem. I would just say the answer is 12. But for this problem, 5 times negative 6, what we can do is cover up our positive part of our triangle, and then we can cover up one of the negatives. That leaves us with a negative, so our answer must be negative. So I know 5 times 6 is 30, so the answer is negative 30. Let's try this again. Now I have negative 3 times negative 8, so I'm going to cover up my top negative and my side negative, and that leaves me with a positive. And these are the same sign, so that makes sense. So 3 times 8 is positive 24. Do make sure not to get these rules confused with the addition or subtraction rules because those are completely separate. It's only for multiply and divide that if you have two negatives, it gives you positive. All right, our last example for multiplication is negative 6 times 9. So we'll cover a negative and we'll cover the positive. and that leaves us with an answer that will be negative. So 6 times 9 is 54, so the answer is negative 54. This is going to be very similar for our division problems. Our first problem, 16 divided by 2, has all positive numbers, so we don't need to worry about using the triangle. We just know the answer will be positive 8. Our next problem, negative 35 divided by 7. Pause and see if you can try this on your own. You should have covered one negative and one positive, and the answer was negative. So 35 divided by 7 is 5, so the answer is negative 5. Next, we have 28 divided by negative 4. So we'll cover the positive, and we'll cover one of the negatives. And my answer, 28 divided by 4 is 7, so it'll be a negative 7. Finally, we have negative 9 divided by negative 3. And we're going to go ahead and cover up both these positives, which gives me both the negatives, which gives me a positive answer. So, and these are the same sign, and they gave me a positive. So negative 9 divided by negative 3 is 3. Let's recap. We know that when we multiply integers and divide integers, they are going to have the same rules. And when you multiply or divide different signs, the answer is always negative. That wraps up our lesson. Thanks so much for watching.
All right, and here's the next one.
Welcome to Math with Mr. J.
Seven times positive 4. We have a negative times a positive. So we are working with different signs. Now, when we're working with different signs, this tells us our product, the answer to a multiplication problem, will be negative. So negative 7 times 4. Well, 7 times 4 is 28. And then we know this product is negative because we are working with different signs. So this is negative 28. And that's our final answer. To recap, different signs equal a negative product. So if we have a negative times a positive, that will equal a negative product. Or if we have a positive times a negative, that will equal a negative product. Let's move on to number 2, where we have negative 10 times negative 6. So we have the same signs there. We have two negative numbers. So our product will be positive. So let's think. 10 times 6 is 60, and we have the same signs there. So this is going to be a positive 60. Our final answer, 60. So to recap, same signs equals a positive product. So negative times a negative equals a positive product, and then a positive times a positive also equals a positive product. That's how we multiply integers. Let's move on to division. So here are our examples for dividing integers, and you'll notice that our rules are the same for dividing integers as they were for multiplying integers as far as working with those positives and negatives, and if we're working with the same signs or different signs. Let's jump into number 1, where we have negative 48 divided by negative 8. For now, let's just think of this as 48 divided by 8. And what that quotient will be. Remember, the quotient is the answer to a division problem. So 48 divided by 8 is 6. So let's write a 6 here. And now we need to determine if our quotient is positive or negative. Well, we had a negative divided by a negative. So anytime we have the same signs in our original problem, our quotient is positive. So same signs, positive quotient. So negative 48 divided by negative 8 equals a positive 6. Now let me back up here and further explain same signs. So same signs would be a negative divided by a negative, like number 1, that equals a positive, and then also a positive divided by a positive equals a positive. Let's move on to number 2, where we have 36, a positive 36, divided by negative 4. So let's think of this as 36 divided by 4, which is 9. Now we need to determine if that quotient is positive or negative. Well, we have a positive divided by a negative. So we have different signs. Different signs, that is a negative quotient. So negative 9 there. 36 divided by negative 4 equals negative 9. So for different signs, that means a positive divided by a negative, like number 2, that equals a negative, and then a negative divided by a positive equals a negative. So there you have it. There's how you multiply and divide integers. If you need any more help or examples, I dropped links to more videos and examples down in the description. I hope that helped. Thanks so much for.
Right. Okay. One more.
Once everything's perfectly organized, I'll start working on my thesis.
Grammarly will.
I saw you working with the two integers. The math you did was right, now that's for sure. You were going strong, but the final sign was wrong, 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 wrong. So listen to this song and you'll be right every time. Follow these two rules when you multiply or divide. Sing it, same signs positive, different signs negative. Yeah, same signs positive, different signs negative. Now let's practice a problem or two. Negative 5 times 4, what do we do? We look at the signs, then we multiply. Since they are different, it will be negative. But what if I had negative 12 divided by negative 6? Sing it, same signs positive, different signs negative. Yeah, same signs positive, different signs negative. Same signs positive, different signs negative. Yeah, same signs positive, different signs negative.
Now let's practice a couple. Tell me whether the solution is positive or negative. 3 times negative 8.
Negative.
Negative 4 times negative 9.
Positive.
Negative 36 divided by negative 3.
Positive.
54 divided by negative 6.
Negative.
Okay. And we have two more short ones. These are, you probably don't believe me, but there is actually a movie that has in it a lesson on integers. Some of you young whippersnappers are probably not going to know what I'm talking about. There was a movie called Stand and Deliver. I'm going to show you a scene from that movie. It's about a teacher that teaches a group of low-level students and ends up teaching them calculus.
This is basic math, but basic math is too easy for you burros. So I'm going to teach you algebra because I'm the champ. And if the only thing you know how to do is add and subtract, you'll only be prepared to do one thing, pump gas.
Hey, ripping up a gas station is better than working in what, you know?
Orale. Orale. I'm a tough guy. Tough guys don't do math. Tough guys deep fried chicken for a living. So orale. You want a wing or a leg, man? Whoever heard of negative and positive numbers? Anybody?
Yeah, negative numbers are like unemployment. 10 million people out of work, that's a negative number.
We're going to need a lot of Kleenexes. There's going to be a lot of bloodshed. You ever been to the beach? Yeah. You ever play with the sand? Finger man. Come on, finger man. You ever dig a hole? The sand that comes out of the hole, that's a positive. The hole is a negative. That's it. Simple. Anybody can do. -2 plus 2 equals. Nethead. Orale. Answer it. Come on, you know the answer. -2 plus 2, fill the hole. If I had that on my hands, I wouldn't raise it either. Orale. Come on, a -2 plus 2 equals. Anybody can do it. Fill the hole. -2 plus 2 equals. Come on, just fill the hole. You can do it. You're gonna let these burros laugh at you. -2 plus 2 equals. I'll break your neck like a toothpick. Orale. 0. 0. You're right. Simple. That's it. -2 plus 2 equals 0. You just fill the hole.
All right. Wait.
Means multiply. Every time you see this, you multiply. A negative times a negative equals a positive. A negative times a negative equals a positive. Say it. A negative times a negative equals a positive. Say it. A negative times a negative equals a positive. Again. A negative times a negative equals a positive. A negative times a negative equals a positive. I can't hear you.
A negative times a negative equals a positive.
Louder. A negative times a negative equals a positive. Louder. A negative times a negative equals a positive. Why?
Okay. So don't ever let anybody tell you there aren't any movies that have math in them. All right, I have that it's 5:22, so we're going to take a break. I want you back at 10:20. It's 5:22, so I want you back at 5:45. So that gives you a little more than 15 minutes. Okay, take a break. I want you back at 5:45, not 5:46, not 5:47, 5:45. Anybody have any questions of me before I go take a break? Okay, so go get refreshed because we're going to be doing a negative times a negative equals a positive. A negative times a negative equals a positive. A negative times a negative equals a positive. You're going to hear me say that 50 bazillion times. All right, I'm heading out. All right, I've got this 5:45. The first thing we're going to do is a review from Tuesday. Should look like this. These numbers are fairly small type numbers. The instructions say we should be able to do this in 3 minutes. Okay, so be working on that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you the answers. Any questions about these? Okay. All right, next we are going to do some multiplication ones together. It should look like this, but I just realized that every single one of these problems, there's a positive and a negative. There are no problems that are two negatives or two positives. So I may change a couple of these problems as we're working them, but that's the sheet you need to have out, either printed or just have it up, and we will work through it together. It says multiplying and dividing integers b. Okay, so I'm going to close that now. All right, these are not numbered, so I'm going to be going across the page. So the first one is 99 divided by negative 11. And typically, if there's an operation before a negative, a lot of times we'll put it in parentheses so that it doesn't end up looking like you've got 99 minus 11. No, it's not quite 1,000. But you'll see there should be, most of them should be pretty quick. So 99 divided by 11 is 9. And we have a positive and a negative. If the signs are different, our answer is negative. The next one, 10 times negative 2. Well, 10 times 2 is 20. We have a positive and a negative. Our answer is negative. 50 divided by negative 5. 50 divided by 5 is 10. A positive divided by a negative, the signs are different, so our answer is negative. I'm going to change the next one. What if it were negative 6 divided by negative 6? Well, if we take 6 and divide it by 6, we get 1. And since I have a negative and a negative, that gives us a positive 1. Negative times a negative, or negative divided by a negative, is a positive. Okay, so we've got to remember that if you take a positive and multiply it by a positive, we get a positive. If we take a negative and multiply it by a negative, we get a positive. But if we take a positive and multiply it by a negative, we get a negative. If we take a negative and multiply it by a positive, we get a negative. So the next one, 96 divided by negative 12. 96 divided by negative 12. What do y'all think that it would be? Okay, good. Negative 8. 96 divided by 12 is 8. We have a positive divided by a negative, so we get a negative answer. Okay. 55 divided by negative 5. What do you think the answer is for that one? Okay, correct. 55 divided by 5 is 11. And since the signs are different, our answer is negative. All right, on the next one, what if I had negative 9 times negative 4? Negative 9 times negative 4. Okay, correct. 9 times 4 is 36. When the signs are the same, our answer is positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so really these problems are just knowing your times tables and then looking to see what the sign is and giving the correct sign for the answer. All right, I'm going to make a slight change here because I don't want all of them to be the exact same. All right, so now I'm going to give you some to work. So I'm going to turn that over to you, and I want you to work those problems. Good. All right. Who's still working on this? All right, let me show you the answers to that. And then we've got some more we're going to do. Because you have a -3 times a -7. No, my paper says -3 times -7. So it should be +21. The signs are the same. Negative times a negative is a positive. Yeah, those negatives are a little, and even on like this one right here, that negative's a little bit hard to see on the negative 4 times 6. Anybody get all of them correct? Well, very good. All right. Well, I'm going to give you one more to do. This time I got it fixed. All right. And it should look like this. Again, most of those numbers are small numbers. Should be, and this has got some mixed addition and subtraction on it. So this is a good review here of everything because it's got multiplication, division, and some adding and subtracting. So you got to be very careful as you're working these. All right. So start working on these. I think you should be able to finish that in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to let you go on that. Okay, is that everybody? All right, let's switch to the answers. Okay, there's the rest. Okay, any questions? Very good. All right, no questions. Today is grammar day. We're actually going to be doing several days of grammar, focusing on writing. It's very important that you be able to write effectively. And so we're going to be spending some time doing some writing. It's not like you're going to write a, 10-page paper or anything, but we're starting off with just writing sentences and then moving from there to writing paragraphs. Depending on what your job is, you probably have to send emails, or you may have to write letters, or you may have to correspond with your boss or correspond with customers. And so it's important to be able to write and use correct grammar and have some style in your writing. Okay, so got a couple of videos that we're going to watch. I'm probably going to have to do this way. Let's see.
That gets so good at writing. WordTune. It's your writing wing.
You know what's the worst? Knowing the answer to a question on a quiz or a test, writing out the answer in a simple and concise way, and then getting marked off because you didn't use complete sentences. If you can answer a question in one word, why not keep it short? It might seem ridiculous for a teacher to mark off points or always expect longer answers when shorter ones get the same information across. But writing in a way that is complete and thorough is a pretty big deal. My name is Cale Prindle, and it's back to basics on this week's episode of Words from the Muck. Though it is possible to write well without knowing all the ins and outs, terminology, and technicalities of language, it'd be helpful to have a basic knowledge of what's going on between the lines. That's the understanding of grammar, the labels and rules of language that dictate how our expression works. And that includes today's topic, parts of speech and sentences. Words can be broken into categories of use called parts of speech, and each part of speech serves a different function and purpose. You've probably heard a lot of these before, like adjective, preposition, and conjunction. Complete sentences require two different parts of speech, nouns and verbs. Nouns are people, places, things, ideas, so bagels are nouns, freedom's a noun, video games are nouns, Lincoln, Nebraska is a noun, and your mom is a noun. Oh yeah, I said it. Your mom? Total noun. But nouns by themselves don't make a sentence because a noun by itself is static. It doesn't do anything. It's just an image or an idea. Even if you string a bunch of nouns together, they don't create a sentence. For instance, chipmunk, glacier, jungle, burp can't be a sentence. And it can't be a sentence because there isn't a clear idea being conveyed. It's just gibberish. To make your sentences work, you need a noun to do something. So what you need is a verb. Verbs are mostly thought of as actions that a noun can do, so it's the verb that keeps the noun from remaining static, just an image or vague concept. So chipmunk, glacier, jungle, burp doesn't mean anything because each noun is static. But if we add some verbs, chipmunks burp in the jungle. Now we have a complete idea that allows us to imagine not just a chipmunk, but a chipmunk that is doing something, and it's even in a place. So now it has meaning, and we can make a whole series of action-based chipmunk adventures. Greg the chipmunk traveled to the deep jungles of the Amazon River basin. He sliced some camu from a tree for breakfast, but after eating too much, he burped uncontrollably throughout the day. Now, it's important to remember that verbs aren't always action-oriented. Often you find yourself using verbs of being or linking verbs in your sentences. These kinds of verbs refer to states of being. Words like remain, exist, and continue. Linking verbs often connect your nouns to other parts of speech. The party was disastrous. That goat is suspicious. Your mom continues to be a total noun. These are still verbs, even though they don't really do anything, like they're not action words, but they are crucial in creating meaning in your sentence. Once you have a noun doing a verb, you have what's called a clause, which usually means you have a sentence. What do I mean by usually? I'll answer that in our next episode on compounding complex sentences. Yeah! Until then, check out this video on using your stories to make better arguments. Thanks for watching Words from the Muck. Like this video if your mom is a noun.
All right.
Keep it quilted means you keep it the best. Keep it quilted means comfort that feels good and does good. With 5 million trees.
You know what's the worst? Knowing the answer to a question on a quiz or a test, writing out the answer in a simple and concise way, and then getting marked off because you didn't use complete sentences. If you can answer a question in one word, why not keep it short? It might seem ridiculous for a teacher to mark off points or always expect longer answers when shorter ones get the same information across, but writing in a way that is complete and thorough is a pretty big deal. My name is Cale Prindle, and it's back to basics on this week's episode of Words from the Muck. Though it is possible to write well without knowing all the ins and outs, terminology, and technicalities of language, it can be helpful to have a basic knowledge of what's going on between the lines. That's the understanding of grammar, the labels and rules of language that dictate how our expression works. And that includes today's topic, parts of speech and sentences. Words can be broken into categories of use called parts of speech, and each part of speech serves a different function and purpose. You've probably heard a lot of these before, like adjective, preposition, and conjunction. Complete sentences require two different parts of speech, nouns and verbs. Nouns are people, places, things, ideas. So bagels are nouns, freedom's a noun, video games are nouns, Lincoln, Nebraska is a noun, and your mom is a noun. Oh yeah, I said it. Your mom? Total noun. But nouns by themselves don't make a sentence because a noun by itself is static. It doesn't do anything. It's just an
Yep, you sure did. All right, I grabbed the wrong one. Hold on. All right, here we go.
I have children, and that means when they were first learning to read, they started out by reading books with very short sentences. Rupert jumped over the hamster. The Yeti pondered his own existence. Tasha slapped a poser. You remember reading stuff like that, right? Knowing how to write complete sentences doesn't make your writing automatically great. It shouldn't take long before anybody can write complete sentences like those in the beginner reading books. But maintaining control while you expand your sentences is what really allows you to connect and explore greater ideas. My name is Cale Prindle, and today we're breaking away from simple sentences in this week's Words from the Muck. In our last writing episode, I said that partnering a noun with a verb creates something called a clause, and that a clause usually means that your sentence is complete. So you can start making sentences with just 2 words if you really wanted to. Ferdinand puked. Lucy sat. Hector imploded. Each of those, even though they're extremely short, all contain a noun and a verb combination, and it works as a complete sentence. We can call this by 2 names. They are each an independent clause, and they are each a simple sentence. An independent clause is a group of words that works as a complete sentence. It isn't missing anything, and it can stand on its own without any other information. And a simple sentence is a sentence made up of a single independent clause. But not all word groupings are clauses. Last week's example, Chipmunk Glacier Jungle Burp, is not a clause, because even though it has nouns and possibly a verb, none of the nouns are actually doing anything. In other words, if burp is supposed to be the verb, then it needs to be partnered with one of the nouns to make that noun the subject of the sentence. So if a clause that works as a sentence is an independent clause, you can probably guess what the other type of clause is. When we speak and write, we often tie a lot of different clauses together to make a compound or a complex sentence, and I'll tell you more about those in just a moment, but some of those clauses wouldn't be any good if they weren't connected to the larger sentence you were trying to make. Let's look at some examples. Because a herd of turtles were crossing the street, I stopped driving. While Chantel joined the others in pushing the beached whale back into the ocean, Petunia just watched Blackfish and felt righteous. Between those 2 sentences, there are 4 clauses, and some are independent and the others are dependent. To identify the clauses, find the verbs first. Then look for the nouns that are doing those verbs. In the first sentence, because a herd of turtles were crossing the street is one clause, and I stopped driving is another. And when you look at those, only one of them can function as its own sentence. I stopped driving. The other clause, if left by itself, would sound really weird. Because a herd of turtles was crossing the street. The word because makes us want to know the other side of the sentence, and that's why this is a dependent clause. It leaves us hanging and we need more information. When we use a dependent clause like this as its own sentence, we call it a fragment. And this is what your teachers never like when you're writing on your quizzes and on your tests. The same is true for our second example. The word while, in this case, makes the first clause dependent, again, requiring us to look for more information. Words like because and while are subordinating conjunctions, meaning they connect their clause to another part of the sentence. But they're not the dominant clause, not the independent clause, not a clause that can make it on its own. So when you start to combine clauses, you get new kinds of sentences. So if one independent clause is called a simple sentence, then a combo of an independent and dependent clause is called a complex sentence. And if you put 2 or more independent clauses together, then it's called a compound sentence. And if you want to get real fancy, you put 2 or more independent clauses together and then add in at least 1 dependent clause, you get a compound complex sentence. Yes! Knowing this allows you to create a variety of sentences in your writing. Sometimes you need a complex sentence because you need to combine information under one sentence to make sure the reader keeps all that information together in their minds, and also because sometimes you just need to not sound like you're writing to a bunch of 5-year-olds. But sometimes you want to use something long and elaborate and take your reader's mind on a roller coaster ride of description and action. Sometimes you just want to get your point across quickly. Thanks for watching Words from the Muck. We went through a lot of terms today, learning about independent and dependent clauses and simple, compound, complex, and compound, complex sentences. Of course, these will all be defined for you again in the description below. Let us know in the comments if you have any other questions, and make sure to subscribe for more wordly wisdom. Until next time, farewell, good people.
Okay. Hopefully you are beginning to see that there's a lot of stuff that I'm repeating with you, talking about clauses and types of sentences. It's because I'm getting you ready so that when we start actually doing some little bit more complicated writing, we've gone over this a lot, and so it will be much easier for you if we are constantly reviewing this this information. So I have something for you to start working on. It should look like this. Yes, there is an essay on the GED reading test. And so it's not worth a ton of points, but it could mean the difference between passing and failing. So we need to be practicing that. Okay. So this is the sheet you need to be working on. It should say complete sentences and fragments. I want you to do the first 2 pages. So page 77 and page 78. Okay, 77 and 78. Okay, that's good. Yeah. I believe the essay part is roughly 20%, give or take. So yes, it can mean the difference between you passing or not passing. Okay. So that's why I'm trying to keep this writing stuff in front of you all the time, because you need it for the test, but you also need it in your work life as well. Yep. All right, so I want you to work on these two pages. And if you finish these and want to keep going, that's fine, because this sheet is also part of your homework. Okay, so I'm going to let you work on that. Yes, that's what I want you working on right now, the first 2. Okay. Good. All right, be nice. And that looks like almost all of you. If you're still working, anybody still working? Nobody's still working. All right. Okay. For number 1 on page 77, for number 1, you had to put whether it was a complete sentence or a fragment. If it was a complete sentence, you needed to underline the subject and circle the predicate. So for number 1, that was a sentence fragment. So you should have put F. For number 2, that was a sentence fragment. Put F. Number 3 was a complete sentence. The subject was Leonard, and the predicate was did not buy the motorcycle. Number 4 was a sentence fragment, F. Number 5 was a complete sentence, CS. The subject was the painting, and you should have circled the predicate is in a gold frame. Number 6 was a sentence fragment, F. Number 7 was a sentence fragment, F. Number 8 was a sentence fragment, F. Number 9 was a complete sentence. The subject, you should have underlined, Harry. The predicate, you should have circled, mowed the lawn yesterday. Number 10, complete sentence, CS. Should have underlined the subject, Lucia's apartment, and circled the predicate is on the 5th floor. Then for page 78, they wanted to know, is it a complete sentence, or is it a clause, or is it a phrase? So number 1 was a complete sentence. Number 2 was a clause. 3 was a clause. 4 was a phrase. 5 was a complete sentence. 6 was a phrase. 7 was a clause. 8 complete sentence. 9 complete sentence. And number 10 was a phrase. Any questions over any of those? Anybody? All right. We're going to take a few minutes and we're going to All right, so I'm going to ask some of you some questions. Please do not put any scores or anything in the regular everyone chat. If you're going to send me any scores, please do it in the private chat so that it's nobody else's business what the scores are. Mr. Jolliffe, I got your GED ready score in reading, and I show that you are scheduled for social studies on October 30th. Is that correct? I think also a post test on October 30th. Yes, okay, great. Your GED ready score in reading indicates you are ready to take the GED in reading. Do you want to wait until you take the GED ready in social studies to see that score before moving forward on getting the GEDs scheduled? Most people take reading and social studies together, so I'm wondering if you want to wait until after you finish that social studies before moving forward. Okay, all right, sounds good. Mr. Roberts, you are scheduled to take your GED ready test in reading on November 1st. Am I correct? I want to make sure I've got dates and all correct. Mr. Roberts. The GED tests are 46. Mr. Roberts, are you there? I'm going to come back around. Mr. Moy, I need you to send me your I think you took your GED ready test in reading. Have you already taken it in social studies? So you've done both. Okay. I need you to send me your scores. You may have, I cannot remember. Y'all know I'm getting old. My short-term memory is terrible.
I could email it to you. I remember
Yes.
showing you yesterday too, though.
Okay, and again, I don't remember things too long, and so I'm sure you did show me yesterday, and it was a pleasure meeting you in person yesterday, by the way. But if you'll send them to me in email, so I have them in writing, that way I can put it in my notebook and I'll know. That's probably why I don't have it, is because when I saw you yesterday, I didn't have my notebook in my hand, and so I couldn't make the note. So send that to me if you would, please.
All right. Yes, sir.
All right. Miss Betts, I have you scheduled for October 31st, Halloween.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, awesome. Good. And are you doing both at the same time?
I believe I'm just doing reading.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then you need to get the social studies one scheduled.
I already passed the social studies GED.
Oh, yep. I'm sorry. Yep, it's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So yes. All right. So October 31st, 10 a.m. for your reading. Okay. All right. That's what I needed. Thank you. Miss Handy. Miss Handy, have you made a decision on your GED?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna schedule it for the 1st of November, like the first week in November, to take it.
Okay.
I just haven't set the date yet. I just have a lot going on, so I just haven't made time for it. But I'll definitely do it. I'll say tomorrow I'll schedule it.
Okay. All right. And then please send me an email letting me know what dates and times.
Definitely will.
Okay, great. All right. Next on my list, Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb, your GED ready scores indicate you are ready to take the GED. So you are at the point where we have a fork in the road and you have to make a decision. There are two options. Option one is you pay for the test yourself. The tests are $46 a piece. I'll put this in here so you can see. The tests are $46 a piece. Okay, you are paying. All right. Then that means I don't need to talk about the other option. So what you need to do is you need to go on into GED.com. The first thing you've got to do is make absolutely sure that we are set as your testing provider, that Augusta Tech is your testing provider. If you haven't checked that, you need to go in, and what you do is when you go into GED.com, up in the corner, up in the top, it'll have a circle with your initials in it. You click on that, and there's a choice that says something like Edit Profile. You click on that, and at the bottom of that page, it will tell you who you have set as your testing provider. So you've got to go in and indicate that you have Augusta Tech as the testing provider, and then you can schedule your GED test on your own. You do not need us. That's the only one that you don't have to have us schedule it for you. You go into GED.com, you schedule it. Okay, all right. Yes, sometimes folks got to wait until they get a paycheck that comes in, so I understand completely. Believe me, I really understand. Okay, so when you make a decision, let me know, okay? All right, next on my list, Miss Bostock. I have you scheduled for November 3rd to do reading and social studies ready test. Is that correct? Miss Bostock, you there? Looks like she dropped out. Okay. All right. Mr. Jamerson. Mr. Jamerson. Okay. You sent me all of your GED ready test scores. You are ready to go ahead and take your GED in all 4 subjects. So you're in the same boat. You have the 2 options. You can pay yourself That's the fast option because you can start doing that right now. The other option is to apply for a scholarship. I do believe you have to have scores of 150 or greater for them to issue the scholarship. I'll double check on that, but if you want to go that way, then we'll need to talk. I'll send you an email, but I need to know whether or not you want to go ahead and pay yourself, or do you want to try for a scholarship? If you don't know right now, you can send me an email. If you're going to pay yourself, I would say you will probably be out of here in a week or a little more. You'll be done. Okay. Then if you're going to go ahead and pay, then you are in the same position as whoever was I was just talking to. You will go into GED.com. Again, double check and make sure we are your testing provider. And then you go ahead and schedule those tests on your own. So when you schedule it, it's going to ask you, how do you want to pay for it? And then you'll decide if you're going to use a credit card or a debit card or whatever. But it will have you go ahead and pay for it when you schedule it yourself. It'll send us a message letting us know that you are scheduled, but you do the scheduling yourself. So if you start scheduling any of those, please send me an email and let me know what day and time you've set up for those. Okay. All right, Miss Bostock, are you there? I'll get to you in a minute, Miss Green. Hold on. And I think.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I show you are scheduled for your reading and social studies ready test on November 3rd at 6:15 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay, awesome. That's all I need to know. So you're set. All right. Thank you. Let's see who's next on my list here. Miss Cruz. Miss Cruz, I show that your GED ready test in reading is November 2nd. Your actual GED social studies test is October 27th.
Yes, sir, tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. Good luck on that. Most people don't have any problem with the social studies. I don't think you will either. So I think you'll do fine.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next is Miss Green. Miss Green, your vouchers were approved. You have got to set up and call to get your tests scheduled. You're going to be scheduling the reading and the social studies GED ready test. Okay, GED ready test in social studies and reading. Okay, awesome. Please let me know what you schedule, what date and time. And if you call and you don't get anybody, this is for all of you. If you call and you don't get anybody, then keep calling. Call back in 30 minutes or call back in an hour and do that until you do get somebody. I will tell you, there are tons of people in and out of that office all day long. And so sometimes it's difficult for them to get to the phone, but they will answer it when they can be there to answer it. So you got to just keep trying. Don't give up. All right, Miss Harris.
Yes, sir.
You were supposed to go in and fix your GED.com. Have you done that yet?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you have set Augusta Tech as your testing provider.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to make a note here, and I will resubmit for your vouchers.
Yes, sir.
And as soon as I get word that they have come back, then I will let you know, and then you can call and schedule.
Yes, sir.
Okay? All right,
Okay,
great.
thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, Mr. Wynn. Mr. Wynn. Mr. Wynn. Okay. Your vouchers for the GED Ready test in reading and social studies were approved. Have you called and set up a testing date and time? Okay. All right. So you're going to call tomorrow. I'm going to make a note. Calling tomorrow. Again, you want to speak to Miss Barker, and you are scheduling your GED Ready test in reading and social studies. Okay. If you don't get a hold of somebody, then call back and keep calling until you do get somebody. Let's see, Miss Corkery. No. As far as I know, they have pretty open schedule for setting up and taking your actual GED test. I don't think there are any particular time constraints. I could be wrong. I mean, there has to be somebody in the testing center, and so I would imagine that they have certain set time blocks. But you'll be able to see that when you go in and register. Okay. All right. I've gone through my list. Is there anybody that has some other question? Okay. Yes, ma'am. For math, if it's a post-practice or GED ready, I usually do virtual. Okay. On the calculator part of the math test, they give you their own, and it's a scientific one to use. Do they not let you use? It's supposed to be the TI-30XS. That's the one they're supposed to be giving you. They're not giving you a TI-30XS multi-view like we've been using? Okay. I am glad you told me that, because I will check on that. That is not correct. Now, that could be for the post-test. The GED Ready test and the GED actual GED test, it is supposed to be a TI-30XS multi-view. So are you sure that wasn't a post-test you were taking? Because I think they just grab any calculator for that. They grab whatever is sitting there. Okay, I will find out, because that is not supposed to happen. I will tell you that as you're taking the test, if you click on the calculator button on the screen when you're taking the test, the calculator that pops up is supposed to be have the same keys and setup as the TI-30XS Multiview. It may not give you multiple lines like the actual calculator does, but it should be the exact same calculator. Okay, I've got a note here. I'm gonna check on that. I'm gonna find out, because that's not right. That's not right. And Mr. Jolliffe, I think did you ask? Okay, I'm gonna have to check on that, because that's not right. And that actually makes me very angry. All right, anybody else have questions? Okay, those of you that are going to be taking your test soon, then good luck. There are materials in Blackboard. Okay, so when you log into Blackboard, along the side over here on this black bar, there's extra practice in math. Here's extra practice in reading, some actual practice tests in reading, a whole section on social studies that has tons of social studies stuff, a whole section on science that has a ton of science stuff, including post-test, pre-test, sample tests. Okay, so there's lots of study material here if you want to use any of this. I want to point out your today's folder will unlock at 8:30. All of our videos that we watched. Whoops, am I in the right class? Oh, yes, I am. Okay. And there's our videos. Yep, all of that's there for you to use. Your assignment today is a math sheet very similar to one of the practice ones that you were doing. It has 2 columns and it's all mixed review. So there'd be multiplication, division, adding, subtracting. You're to finish the sheet that started in class on complete sentences and fragments. We did the first 2 pages. You'll do the rest of it. Also notice that there's a quiz. Hopefully I made this big enough that it catches your attention. The quiz will be open until Tuesday of next week at 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, it closes. Okay, and the reason that I do that is we are supposed to be also teaching what are called career readiness skills. And so everything we do, we're supposed to be incorporating career readiness skills into it. Here's how I incorporate career readiness skills. You have a deadline and you are expected to meet that deadline and complete the work. So this is my career readiness contribution. At your work, you are given, I am sure, you are given timelines and told that such and such and such and such has to be done by this time. And so that's what this is for. So and this counts as part of your assignment. In fact, actually, it's another whole column as a separate assignment. And so if you don't take it by 4 o'clock on Tuesday, it will show up as you not doing an assignment. And we don't want that. So make sure you take it before class on Tuesday. If it were me, I would go in here tonight, tomorrow, and go ahead and get it knocked out and done. Okay. It is a vocabulary quiz over 1 through 6. Vocabulary lists 1 through 6. There was a vocabulary list today. I didn't pull it up, but there is vocabulary list number 8 today, and you can get it here in Blackboard. Okay, so I'm standing here with this big banner, waving it in front of you to say, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Showing 1 through 4 on what? I'm not sure what you mean is something showing 1 through 4. I'm pretty sure up here outside, let me make sure. There is a link to all the lists here. I may need to make sure I unlock. Okay, yep. If you're getting them from here, I sometimes forget to unlock them in here. I'm doing it right now. I just typically put them in the folder for the day. Okay, but there's 1 through 7. I'll add number 8 so that you'll have all of them. Okay. Okay, I'm going to wave this in front of you again. Quiz. Don't forget the quiz. It's part of your assignment. It's required. Don't forget, do the quiz before Tuesday afternoon at 4 o'clock. All right, today you have a ticket out the door. It is for you to write a sentence. So you can click on that link. That will bypass you putting the code in, but you will need to put your name in. And I'm asking you to write one sentence about yourself. Factual, informational sentence about yourself. It could be where you live, it could be where you work, it could be what kind of job you have, it could be about your family, some information about yourself. Please use complete sentences. That means a capital letter at the beginning, punctuation at the end, commas if needed. Once you finish this, you are free to go. Have a great weekend. I will see you on Tuesday. Those of you taking tests, good luck. I know you will do well. You all are a very smart group. So I know you will do just fine. Yes, ma'am. Again, when you finish, you are free to go. Have a great weekend. Please be safe. Please be safe. Good night. You too. Thank you. You too. Thank you.
Mr. B,
Yes, ma'am.
I just scheduled a test for November the 3rd at 9:15.
And which test is that?
The social studies.
Okay, let me find your page here. And that's your actual GED?
Yes, sir.
Okay, hold on. Let me find your page. I don't have these in order. Here we go. Okay. So, actual GED, you said in social studies?
Yes, sir.
And what was the date again?
November the 3rd at 9:15.
9/15. Okay. All right. Thank you. Good luck.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'll see you before then, but good luck anyway. All right. Have a good weekend. Y'all be safe. Good night. Yes, I'm looking at all of them now. Going through each one of them. All right, you too. Be safe.
All right, I'm emailing you my scores.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna do it soon after I get done feeding my baby. I was in the room
Okay,
and had to
sounds
fix my bottle. Oh no, don't cry. I said
I think he doesn't like my voice.
No, he hungry. He had just woke up.
Okay.
All right, have a great night.
All right, you too.
All right.
All right. Be safe.
All right, I'm here.
Mr. B,
Yes, ma'am.
I got one last question.
Okay, you're fine. Good.
I left and had to come back because I had a question. But the GED, the ready test, that's what you guys provide, right? So like if I wanted to take it in science, I would let you know and you could.
Yes, and then we have to get a voucher.
Okay. Okay. Because I was wondering
So
if I could start on the science.
sure. I need to send in for a voucher, so let me find my page here.
Because I know it takes a while. You said like 2 weeks or something to get that voucher, right?
No, not for your GED ready test. Your GED ready test, that comes back usually in a day, maybe 2 sometimes when it's pushing it. But if I put this in the morning, then probably by sometime tomorrow we'll have it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to see that as well. Go ahead and start my science.
All right, will do.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lamb. Have a good weekend.
If you liked this video, please click on the thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please click on the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when new videos are posted, please click the bell.